Oh, possibly.
All right. What's up, mortgage coach community? I got a little, anyways, Tony Blodgett's in town and he didn't tell me, so I got a little flustered there at the beginning. But guys,
you guys could have done this together in the same
room. I know. You could be at my house right now. We could be broadcasting together. But anyway, I just found out he's in like 15 minutes from my house. So sorry for the rough opening. But this is the Friday Mastermind. Guys, this is a super important time in the industry. It's tough. So there's a lot of difficult conversations that are being had in the industry. There's a lot of right sizing in the industry that's taking place. But it's also just a massive opportunity. I mean, it's a massive opportunity for every single loan officer in America. It's an opportunity for every single executive, to just gain market share. I mean, this is a market where the companies that make the right investments of both time, leadership, and technology gain market share. And one of the most powerful conversations I've had this year was with Austin, the number 2 guy at Rocket, when I was doing the halftime report with Kristen Messerly. And here's a guy who's a top executive at Rocket Mortgage, who's gained more market share than any other mortgage company, and he talked about it. It's in the last part of that interview. I'll put a link down below. That this is where we gained all our market share, coming out of a tough time. And so Deborah Bird and we don't have Todd today, so we're going solo. And it was Deborah's idea to do this on leadership shifts. She invited Tony. We did invite some other industry rock stars if they could to stop by the call. So we may have some impromptu visit from other mortgage coach leaders. But Deborah, I'm gonna hand it to you to frame why you picked this topic, why you invited Tony, and then let's get after it.
Well, this really came from our Clubhouse call that we had. It was a month ago, I believe exactly a month ago from today. And, we were just talking about marketing and some of the shifts that even Tony and his company had to make to attract and retain some of the top talent that they have. And so before we dive into just some of the shifts that you guys are making, Tony, just in case anyone doesn't know you or hasn't heard of you, do you want to give a little background of where you're at, who you are, and then we'll dive into some of the leadership things that you're doing today?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. And thanks, Deborah, for the invite to this call. Always great to have an opportunity to pour into the mortgage coach community, now sales boomerang community. So yeah, my background, 25 years in mortgage banking, spent about the first half of it in origination. And then for the last 15 years or so in executive leadership. I currently am the executive vice president of retail sales for New American Funding. I also run a region up in the Pacific Northwest. So kind of wearing, 2 hats right now, but I'll tell you, about a year in this role, running sales nationally, and what an interesting time in our industry to be sitting in this seat, and like Dave said, there's lots of challenges and there's shifts that are happening. And so we're having to work through and adapt to that. But then there's just massive disruption and opportunity for companies that want to grow right now. And so a lot of my focus is in that direction as well. But yeah, happy to be here. We had a great conversation on Clubhouse, as we typically do the first Friday of every month. And yeah, I think that marketing discussion in particular, it's a very important thing for us to talk about. I think we have to be a little bit careful because not every company, follows the same protocols, but generally speaking, we're way behind the times in marketing in the mortgage industry. So I'm looking forward to kind of your questions, maybe, however you want to unpack that topic. I think it's an important one for us to discuss and something I think people are interested in hearing perspective on.
Awesome. So Deborah, here's how I'd love to do it is you and I kind of take turns asking Tony questions and sharing some of our own ideas. I have facilitated multiple panels just in the past month with top executives ranging from top 10 lenders, top 20 lenders, top 100 lenders. So, I've talked to lots of loan officers, and I have some thoughts on important leadership shifts that need to be made in this market, and I'll pepper those in. Tony, before I forget, I do want to make sure you're invited to lunch with me and Greg Harkavy today at noon. So I just texted you my address. So if you're here, great. And, you're invited. So hopefully I see you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So Tony, well, let's just, and you don't have to, if you want to go in order, like, hey, Dave, I've got 7 shifts and this is my first one, but, give us shift number 1, from your perspective. Oh, wait, you know what? Before we do that, 2 questions. One, describe the market in a minute as how you see it, like you as a change agent, describe this market to us, and do it. Remember, these are all loan officers, so we're not, you're describing it in a way that loan officers can gain market share, and then 2, give us the first strategy, and then Deborah, I'll debrief it, you debrief it, and then you get the next question.
You mean I can't like jump into all the challenges in capital markets and all that stuff? You don't want to hear about that?
I mean, do whatever you want. And wait, one more thing. Wait, one more thing. Community, guys, ask questions. If you're in Zoom, you can ask questions. If you're watching this on Facebook, ask questions. If you're watching this on YouTube and it's recorded, we'll still answer your question. So bring your questions. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah. So and there is lots of challenges in this market, but look, I'll just give you kind of my overview of what's going on, and it's not rocket science. I mean, we've been through similar cycles. I don't remember anything in the last 25 years quite like this, but this one feels a lot worse to me because we're coming off of 2 of the best years we've literally, I think, ever seen in our industry and probably ever will. So the contraction that we're dealing with right now feels probably worse than what it really is. But the reality is we're in a market where interest rates, I was looking, Dave, when we talked the other day, actually, I was looking at the price of like the 5% coupon had gone from like 111 down to 97. That's a 1,400 basis point swing in the 5 coupon, right? Just as an example. And I know that we follow different coupons as the market transitions, but to give you an idea, that's a huge swing. Matter of fact, we've seen almost 500 basis point deterioration in just the last 45 days or so. So we're in a market right now where refinances, which made up a large percentage of people's business over the last couple of years, have essentially all but gone away. We're running close to 95% purchase. Now, that tells me there's probably some opportunity being missed on refinances because we all know that there's people out there that are struggling, that have a lot of equity in their homes, and they probably should be looking at ways of tapping into that and consolidating some of their, really toxic debt. But I don't think enough people are talking about that. But we're in a market that's just contracted significantly. And at the same time, we have the consumer who is hearing a lot of mixed information out there in social media, on the actual media, from their families, from their friends about, is this market going to crash? What's really going on? So we have 2 things going on, in my opinion. We have disruption in the psychology of the consumer, and at the same time, we have affordability challenges because interest rates have gone up so much, and 40-50% of the business that we were used to has gone away in a short period of time. So that's the landscape that we're in. I don't know how else to really frame it other than that. But I also think that because whenever there's this level of chaos and disruption, the person who can be the calm in the storm has a massive opportunity, in my opinion, to develop new relationships, bring new strategies and ideas to the marketplace, and really cement themselves as a leader during a time of massive chaos. And so for those reasons, I see a lot of opportunity. I think for companies, there's a lot of opportunity because, not to name any names, but even just this week, we're seeing large companies that are either for sale, they're selling, they're shutting down retail operations or large percentages of their retail operations. So there's just no doubt that there is massive disruption. There's companies that, for whatever reason, have decided maybe retail mortgage origination isn't where they want to put most of their investment dollars. And I think a lot of these companies are ones that are, owned or managed by hedge funds in many cases, because they're looking for a return. And right now, there's just not a great return, it turns out, in the mortgage origination business. And so not everyone's appetite to continue to move forward and grow in this market is the same. So that also is creating opportunities on a larger scale for companies that want to grow during this market. And like you said, poise themselves for the next cycle that's going to come. So
Tony, on that note, when you said, disruption in the psychology of just the consumer base, what is it that you think that they're adopting, like their beliefs of, purchase prices are still high, interest rates are high. I was just at the doctor's yesterday, and the lady who was helping me was like, yeah, I mean, we even want to buy a home, but we're going to rent and wait until next year, until prices come down, until rates come back down. So what are the things that you're seeing just from a company standpoint, or some of the LOs that are really excelling right now? What are those pattern interrupts that needs consistent messaging to help convert that psychology, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things. I think we have to just address right up front that interest rates are higher than they've been, but they're also not likely to stay at these levels. I mean, you've heard it so many times, it's exhausting to hear the whole marry the home, date the rate thing. But the concept is legitimate, which is, yeah, if you can afford it today, yeah, the interest rate is higher. And we can talk about affordability separately, but if you can afford it, yeah, the payment's going to be higher, but there will be opportunities to restructure your mortgage and whatever that conversation looks like. And there's more opportunity today, I think, than ever to really leverage the seller concessions to help buy down your rate. There's big debates. It's so funny to read sometimes on social media, the debates between temporary buy downs and permanent buy downs and how to use seller concessions. It doesn't really matter to me. All of them have their time and place, and that could be a whole nother episode. The reality is that we have sellers that are willing to negotiate on their sales. And we have to talk more about how that can be leveraged to help bridge the challenges psychologically that the consumer has. Whether that is that, hey, I don't want to pay top dollar, that's fine. You can negotiate the price down. You can maybe not negotiate the price down, but use those dollars to defray the cost of acquisition. You can buy the interest rate down temporarily or permanently to help bridge your affordability concerns. So there's not enough conversations, believe it or not. I think the strategic loan officers are having that conversation, but it needs to be tenfold, in my opinion, not just educating consumers, but the real estate community itself, because agents are a little paralyzed in this market too. Keep in mind, they're dealing with all the same challenges. And I just don't think in that community, nothing against the real estate agent community as a whole, but we talk about these kind of ideas all the time on the mortgage side. And we need to share that knowledge with listing agents, buyer's agents, so that they can then educate their sellers on how they might move their inventory and ways that they can help buyers bridge that gap. So there has to be a lot more conversation about that. I also think, Deborah, that there has to be, we have to bring facts to the conversation. Everyone's worried about some sort of major meltdown in housing. And I think there's lots of very succinct data points that we can show that would describe why that's not likely to happen, most of which just simply has to do with the supply and demand issues around housing. I mean, we went through a time for 2 years where you could not find a home. There was multiple offers on every single home. And if we think that that's not going to come back as soon as interest rates drift back down, I think that we're kidding ourselves. And so I actually think that there's this short window of opportunity, and this is how we should be completely flipping the script, in my opinion, is that there's this short window of opportunity where not only can we, yeah, rates are high, but you can negotiate with the seller to help lower that interest rate, as we mentioned. But the bigger issue is that you can find the home that really meets your family's needs. And I've talked about this a little bit on my podcast, but Deborah, I've owned a home that I didn't love, right? I settled for a home. I was looking, couldn't find the right home. I'm like, this one will do. And people got exhausted. And there's so many people out there, so many families right now that are in a home that they don't love because it was the only thing that they could find at the time and they could get their offer accepted. Well, right now you have the luxury of choice and you get to spend a little bit more time. You get to look at more houses. You get to negotiate with the seller. And I'm telling you, I would almost argue that it's invaluable to be in a home that when you drive home from a hard day's work and you show up in your driveway and you just feel this sense of peace and accomplishment for your home. Like, it's really important to, an individual, to your psyche, to have that. And I think that we don't talk about that enough. And it's an area that if we really could explain to our borrowers that this window of opportunity and how they can find something that they could really fall in love with and be their family home for years to come, that's like the emotional side of the decision. And I don't think that we're taking people down that journey enough, because I promise you, at least for me, that overcomes a lot of dollars if I'm finding the home that I really want. So those are a couple things that I think that we should be talking about more with customers to kind of bridge this gap.
Hey, let me jump in here, because I couldn't agree more. But when I think about the leadership shift that needs to happen in order for that reality to happen, it's we as leaders need to do a better job of training our team. Like it's all about sales training. It's all about and I don't know if Jeremy Forcier is going to be able to join us. But this interview I did with Jeremy, where he, it wasn't just a social media post, date the rate, marry the house, divorce the rent. It's where like, hey, Jeremy shared with scripts, with today's rates, like how he's actually having that conversation with the consumer. Like column A is no affordability help. Column B is a seller buy down, which is one of the best affordability strategies in today's market. And he showed how, like, hey, consumer, you're marrying the house. But this is not a bad time to marry a house. Like, it was harder to marry the house you wanted last year. This year you got a better, you're going to compete with less buyers, you're going to be in a better position. And then, you're dating the rate. Like, he's tactically showing people how to do it. Now, I do think we need to do more skill-based training. And then, hallelujah, as we're talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Jeremy Forcier joins us from the Wild West. Where are you, Jeremy?
I am in Caneros, almost to Napa, California.
Sweet. So, and guys, another note, Jeremy's done this for years. I mean, he expanded his reach. He's not just doing loans in one city. He's doing loans within a 1 to 2 hour driving distance, and he's very strategic about it. He's in a market where he has to work with a lot of realtors, so he has a model around working with a lot of realtors. Jeremy, before I have you speak, I just want to get Tony's thoughts on. Tony, do you agree with me? Like, this is a time for leaders and branch managers to train. And to get real specific, like, hey, we need to train on how to have the seller buy down conversation to recruit realtors, and how we can use, this date the rate, marry the house, divorce the rent to recruit agents. Like we got to win with the consumer, but we got to use these tactics. So we'll bring Jeremy in like less than, well, however long it takes you to answer it. Do you agree that sales training is a leadership shift that we need to do, and we should do it around strategies like this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, 1,000%. I mean, I've always believed in honing your sales skills. That's why, events like next week, Sales Mastery, and, all of the other industry training opportunities that I could get my hands on as I was coming up through the ranks, it was, you need to have the scripts, you need to have the strategies, the tactics, listen to guys like Jeremy who, produce at such a high level with really great ideas, and just adopt those ideas. And so, yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're not working on your skills, and here's the sad truth of what's happened in the last couple of years, is that even great salespeople, they kind of lost their edge, because like anything, if you don't use a skill, it kind of goes away. And yeah, it's not that there was no skill required during the refinance boom of 2020 and 2021 and the housing boom, but it was a lot easier. I mean, your phone just rang, and if you didn't convert quite as good, it wasn't the end of the world, because there was another buyer or client right behind them. And so even good salespeople lost their skills. Really, they need to regain that. So, and that's what I think is the hardest part right now, is convincing people that they need to do the work right now. They need to watch the videos like Jeremy's, and then take notes and rehearse and
Implement.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now is the time to hone your skills, and there's no shortage. I mean, God, your community alone, there's no shortage of ideas, strategies, and tactics that you can deploy. And if you're not having the kind of conversations like what Jeremy walked through in that video, you're completely missing the boat.
Well, and here's the other thing, guys. You don't need too many things. Like, if people just remember, it's a first-time home buyer market. So if they know how to have the divorce, the rent, and the rent versus house hack conversation and all the modern ways to get a first-time home buyer fired up, or at least clear. Like if it's not right for them, it's clear. So Jeremy, let's go to you. You've heard the conversation. The title of this meeting, by the way, is called, Leadership Shifts Required in This Market. And you just heard what we talked about. I would love to know your thoughts on sales training, or any leadership shifts that you want to call out real quick, and anything you want to say about that strategy that I just went in the interview we just did. What are your thoughts, Jeremy?
Hey, yo. So my thoughts are real simple, man. First thought is the first shift that has to happen with every single salesperson in the mortgage space is to realize that you are a leader, period. You're a leader, whether you think you are or not. So you're already a leader. It's just, how are you leading? So the leadership shift that needs to take place in most people is step one, is understand that you are a leader. You're leading people already. How are you leading them though? So that's number one. Number two is that I heard Tony say, which I really appreciate it. People just, they just don't want to do the work. They have to realize they have to do the work. You always have to do the work, period. No matter what, you have to do the work. You have to practice the mortgage coach presentations, the TCAs. You have to play with them. You have to get over the fact that you don't like your hair and you won't do a video. Like, you got to get over all of that in markets like this. Now, specific sales tactic trainings. I'm super fired up on this. Dave, I think I sent you last night, and if I didn't, I'll resend it, a recording of my sales meeting with all my LOs on Wednesday. But the reality is that we have a couple different hats right now, right? I used some props for the first time in my sales meeting. It was kind of fun. I wore a big farmer's hat, and I asked everyone, what kind of hat am I wearing? And everyone was like, a vacation hat, a fishing hat, and no, a sun hat. No, it's farmer's hat, and we're farmers. What do farmers do? They work incredibly hard. They get up early in the morning. They have a strategy. They plant seeds. They do manual labor. They sweat, and then they harvest way later. Right? They harvest later. That's what farmers do. So we're farmers. The second prop I used was a Guns N' Roses t-shirt that said, welcome to the jungle on it. Right? Because we have to remember that not only are we farmers, I was asking, what's this t-shirt? They're like, rock and roll. No, it's the jungle. The jungle is the market right now. Not only do we have to be farmers, we have to be hunters, and we are in the jungle. And if you are afraid to be in the jungle, you better get out. Because that's what the jungle is. It's full of lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So we have to be planting seeds. What does that look like?
Oh man, Jeremy was on a roll. Come on back.
30 past client.
Oh, there you are. We lost you for like 2 seconds. Keep going.
You said lions and tigers and bears.
It's lions and tigers and bears, oh my. So what are the seeds, and how do we plant seeds and hunt at the same time? Right? So the seeds are the phone calls, right? The seeds are the phone calls. The seeds are calling 30 past clients every single week. If you don't have 30 past clients, the seeds are going and meeting 10 new people every single week. And my new favorite sales script that I taught everyone on my call on Wednesday is this: Dave, I like you.
I like you.
Yeah, that's the script. It's not very complicated. Dave, I like you. You know what they always say back? I like you too. And you go, great. Hey, I would love your cell phone number. Can we connect? I'd love to get together and get to know you better. And they say, okay. Start off by being interested in someone else. Tell someone you like them if you're not in a relationship with them where you want it to be yet. I use this 3 times this week with people that I've met for the first time randomly. And every single one of them, cell phone number, email, spelling correctly of their name, followed up with them the next day, appointment to get to know them better the following week. It's not complicated. Okay, so this is a contact sport. I feel that all the sales trainings right now really need to be less about strategy. Okay, that's a part of sales, but more about what we forgot to do. And we forgot how to be in relationships with people. And we all say that we're in the relationship business, yet we all act like ATM machines. And it's not fair to the client. So right now I'd be focusing on, who do I want to be in a relationship with? And I would go after them. I would tell them you like them. I would tell them that you would like to meet them and get to know more about them personally. And then when you're in that meeting, that's when you're hunting. You're hunting for information. Okay, you're hunting for things that you can know more about the person to get a deeper connection or see that if you like them at all. I'll give you a great example. Sales tactic number 2 that I taught on Wednesday to my team was never ask one question, right? So if I ask Dave or Tony or anyone, right, like, hey, so, tell me about your life growing up, where did you grow up? And if they said Portland, you don't move to the next question. You always ask a follow-up question. What did you like about growing up in Portland? You're going to get so much information by asking a follow-up question that it's going to give you what you need to know to focus on, and you need to be interested in that person. The biggest mistake I see my loan officers make personally is they ask a question and then they relate it to, who do you think, Dave?
Themselves.
Yeah, themselves. It's like, where did you grow up? Oh, I grew up in Portland. And then X loan officer goes, oh, that's cool. I grew up in Seattle. It's like, you're a moron. That's not what you do. You don't do that. Okay, you ask a follow-up question. Oh, I've never been to Portland before. Oh, do you like the weather there? I heard that it's like really overcast and rainy. Oh, they have a crazy food scene there. What's your favorite type of food? It's really simple stuff that you have to do, but don't try to be interesting to your prospects, to your clients, to people that you don't know right now. Be interested in them. Okay, be interested in them. Now, third and final thing from a sales strategy training leadership standpoint, and this is the script that I love, that I'm using a ton, that I'm trying to train all my LOs on, is when you get someone into contract or someone is writing an offer and you're giving them loan numbers, when you talk to them, you start like this. Deborah, I'm so excited that you're getting into contract. Congratulations. Hey, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And you shut up. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And then they say, okay, you're in control. Pattern interruption. I talked about it before. Okay. Hey, the elephant in the room is really simple. Interest rates are 7%. We all know that interest rates have gone up a ton. The great news is that we are grateful for the rates to be this high, because that's what gave you the opportunity to get into contract in this competition. The great part of that is that you can still afford the monthly payment. It's right targeted budget that we set together up front. And third, this is my favorite part, Deborah, is that Fannie Mae came out and are targeting interest rates to be at 4.5% in the second quarter of 2023. Happy to send you the article, and we monitor all the mortgages for our clients. So it means that we automatically refinance you in the next 6 months. So this is temporary as far as a higher payment is concerned. They are all saying, sounds good. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, let's go. And so you have to get over the fact of having anxiety of how to bring up that the person might have a rate of 6.7 or 7.625, like depending on their situation. You got to get over that in your own mind. And the easiest way is to say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Okay. It is like self-therapy, as well as gives the other person the opportunity to not only ask questions, but put yourself in an expert position to give them great advice. And right now we need more hope, and we need more future casting, because this is just a blip in the matrix right now.
So what I love for Tony and Jeremy to go back and forth on, Jeremy, you said so many things that are like, yep, that's what everybody needs to be doing. They need to be doing, and you gave a bunch of little micro scripts that are phrases. What is the action plan for any branch manager that's listening to this, for any loan officer to now implement, execute? Why don't you two go? Well, first of all, Tony, any impressions, anything you want to say after hearing what Jeremy shared?
I couldn't agree with Jeremy more. I couldn't agree with him more. I think that if you're not addressing straight on what's going on with interest rates, talking about what the projections are for interest rates in the future and strategies to bridge that gap, most people, I agree with Jeremy, most people that are buying a home right now can probably afford the payment. They can probably qualify for the payment. They don't like it, but they can afford it. And I think that that's important to be able to talk through. Now, there's certainly people who maybe can't afford it. And we've seen a percentage of the market that has been squeezed out, especially first-time home buyers. I think there's got to be a different strategy for those people to incubate those and stay in touch with them. But Jeremy's right. People don't like the payment, but they can afford it. And we need to talk them through how we're going to make sure that they capitalize on the opportunity to lower their payment when that time comes in the future. So yeah, I mean, obviously Jeremy's a pro, man. I agree with his strategy 100%. And I think if you're not having those kind of conversations, then you know, again, you're probably not having great conversion with your clients. And I also agree with Jeremy that you have to get out and talk to more people. I mean, way more people than you're talking to right now in most cases. I know Jeremy makes an insane amount of calls. I'm sure a lot of his salespeople do too. My salespeople that are having success right now are making way more calls than they have for years, because you have to go out and meet more people right now because there's less transactions per referral partner. So you have to go talk to more people, and Jeremy's got a way about him, right? I mean, he's got the personality where he's just like, hey, I like you, you know, that's Jeremy's, you know, that's his energy. Well, guess what? He doesn't, I bet he didn't have that energy when he started. You know, Jeremy's always a gregarious guy, but it's not easy to take on that, you know, fun loving kind of attitude. It's something you have to embrace and learn, and you have to go try that out. Go try it. See how that, you know, fits you, and find your own way of connecting with people, but in a similar way to what Jeremy's saying. Get out of your comfort zone and just let people know, I want to work with you. It's not that difficult, but they're never going to know if you never talk to them. So I love it. And
here's a quick thought, though, that I believe that the loan officers that are winning, you know, they actually do have some skills. Like they're confident about the value they can bring to a consumer and having that conversation. I mean, Jeremy's done, and mortgage coach is just one thing, but it's a big thing, you know, and it's not mortgage coach. It's about having this structured conversation with consumers that, like, he knows that he brings super value. Like, any loan officer listening to this, you can't use just Jeremy's scripts if you're not actually valuable. You know, like, if you don't actually have some moves that create value for consumer, that get first-time home buyers off the fence and into escrow, if it's just a script, it doesn't work. It's like you got to be the person from a skill-based standpoint, just to have the confidence and the energy to get out and make the calls. Now, I do agree, like, have meetings, but what are your thoughts on that, Jeremy? What are you doing to help your loan officers build those skills? And anything you want to add after what Tony said? And then Deborah, I'll be silent and let you take the next round here.
Yeah, so, you know, yes, we need to talk to more people. Yes, we need to meet with more people. Those are all facts. But what we need to do is stop hiding behind strategy, in my opinion, and we need to become more confident, period, as just ourselves. So there's a great quote I read the other day that, like, it's not your job to like me, it's my job to like me. And all that really means is that, like, you have to learn about yourself first. And if you don't feel confident in something, like, just watch a strategy that you want to know 5 times. Watch a seller buy down video 5 times, then be able to explain it to someone. Like, it's not complicated, but you do have to set some time aside, like, to make sure that you're honing your skills on a daily basis. I think it's extreme. Now, here's a strategy, okay, that I'm happy to share with you guys that I killed it this week with. Talking to a big realtor, and I said, hey, you've obviously slowed down a lot. I pulled up your numbers. By the way, yes, I said that. I said, hey, you have obviously slowed down a lot. I pulled up your numbers, and I'd love to know what the biggest challenge is right now, and I want to help you generate some more business. And he was great. He was open to it. He goes, yeah, no, it's just market pattern right now. It's where I'm at. And I go, hey, how many leads do you follow up with on a monthly basis? Like, so all your buyers, et cetera, that you haven't called in the last 6 months, do you have a list of those? He's like, I really don't reach out to them, like, structuredly. I'm sure there's a bunch in there. And I said, great. Why don't you give me that list, and I'm going to call every single one of them on your behalf. And I said, here's what it's going to sound like, just so you know and you feel comfortable. Hey, what's up? This is Jeremy Forcier. I'm on Rick Avery's team. He asked me to give you a quick call to touch base with you because there's been so many changes in the market. He wanted to make sure that you have all the updated information so that we can revise your search and find you the right home right now, because there's tremendous opportunity. Do you have any questions about the real estate market that I can relay to Rick, or would you like me to schedule an appointment to talk with him? Okay, so that is something I'm killing it with right now, where they literally gave me 60 people, leads, right? Now, number one, I'm not calling as the mortgage person. I'm literally calling as an extension of this person's real estate team, right? So honor them, do the work for them. If you want to be valuable, show them how to do their job better than they're doing it on their own. And if they don't have the ability to do it themselves, just do it for them. That's my message right now to everyone.
What kind of responses do you get on those calls, Jeremy? What sort of feedback are you getting from people?
Yeah, so we got 3 this week that already bought, right? There was 3 of them I contacted. Hey, we actually already purchased a house. Thanks for following up, you know, and I love that. So why do I love that? I love that because I got to go back to Rick and go, hey, I got good news and bad news and great news, right? The good news is I made these leads, which is fantastic. You know, the bad news is 3 of them have already purchased a home, right? But the great news is I can prevent this from happening to you in the future. Like, we don't need to wait 6 months to call these old people. I can be calling them consistently. We can set up a routine so that there's a follow-up process so that we don't let things slip through the cracks. So rather than looking at that as a negative conversation of like, oh, I don't want to tell this person that, it turned it into a positive. I'm building more trust. I'm showing my value as a partner. Hey, we don't even really work together yet. This is what I'm doing for you already. This is what we're going to do together moving forward.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like it.
One thing that you said, Jeremy, was number one, the first shift was recognizing that you're already a leader. And I just want to add to that, that we have to learn how to self-lead. So, you know, I listen to a lot of loan officers all day, every day, and it's easy to point fingers and blame, and my manager this, and our interest rates that, and we don't even have par price, you know, but you've got to be able to lead yourself. And to your point, Tony, when you said, you know, we forgot how to sell and we need to sharpen those skills. What I saw in the last 2 years when things were, you know, refi crazies, we were creating some bad habits. Like, we weren't maybe creating TCAs for every single client. And maybe you got a little rusty on your tech skills. So I just want to remind everybody that this is also a great opportunity. And I know Jeremy does this. I don't know if you do it, Tony, where you're having sales meetings and also going through your tech stacks and showing how to create a seller buy down TCA. Because I also get lots of questions on how do you create the TCA. And Dave, I don't know if you want to pull up just as another reminder of where people can go for daily trainings, where if you need extra support, Mortgage Coach has that built in. You just go to the website and you can sharpen your saw by learning the strategies of how to set up the TCA, because I will no longer accept the excuse from people that I just don't know how to create the TCA when the support is there. So learn to take ownership of your own leadership and self-lead as well.
Yeah,
I know Scott just
I want
ahead.
to point out 2 training strategies for everyone. And you know, so one, before I show the Mortgage Coach one, I do want to show guys something that I am super pumped about, and it's going to be something that we're going to be talking about. Dale Vermillion, who, in my opinion, is just a tremendous trainer when it comes to conversion. You know, he has been training on consumer direct conversion for years, and he created a special, I think it's 2.5 hours, maybe it's 3.5 hours of online training. All of the courses are like 4 minutes to 8 minutes. So it's a bunch of micro lessons that you know, and it's all about, with Mortgage Coach and with Sales Boomerang, are alerts like exactly what to do, you know, how to have effective partnership conversations, you know, conversion, what to say, how to say it, you know, what to say when you're calling out on these scripts, you know, customer expectations. So I'm going to put a link to it. It's called Meet the Market. It's $4.95, but I promise you guys, this is something that could generate extra loans for you in the next week. You know, like, you could watch this and consume this training in a week, and you could come out the other end crushing it with Mortgage Coach. So sales training. As far as what Deborah shared, guys, we got a lot of free training, you know, but most of the, call it the on-demand training, it's just how to use Mortgage Coach. It's how to do a seller buy down. You know, the sales training that we do is our YouTube channel. And then every single Tuesday, guys, I'm on our website. I clicked on this resource section. I go to daily training. You know, this is where you sign up to be on our Tuesday event. And that's always sales training. the productivity mastermind. This is training, leadership in this market. So that and our YouTube channel are definitely our best resources. So Tony, before we bring Scott in, I mean, I know, Scott's Mr. Seller Buy Down, and Scott, let's close out with, maybe you telling folks, a few minutes on, where they can get training on seller buy downs. But Tony, any other market shifts, or excuse me, leadership shifts that you want to call out before we run out of time?
Well, I think that it's important. We kicked off the call and Deborah referenced the conversation that we had a month ago in Clubhouse around marketing. And, I was kind of hoping we would have an opportunity to at least touch on that before we wrap this call.
Focus on that for the next 18 minutes.
Yeah, cool. Deborah, you want to frame kind of that conversation, and then I want to leave some time for Scott as well, but just to touch on this for a minute. I think it's a big topic.
So we were talking about, just the use of video and how powerful video is today with marketing, and how also just from a CMO role or compliance standpoint, or even someone like myself that is helping edit and distribute content, it can be a challenge because of compliance. And, I get the one hat where not all loan officers are created equally, and you may have to have some policies in place just to make sure people aren't guaranteeing a certain interest rate. And so there's lots of steps, and depending on who you work for, I mean, some you're having to submit scripts before you can even go online or share anything using some of these tools. And then also, limitations of having your own personal brand within a company brand with your website and maybe different colored logos or an email address. And so I appreciated, Tony, how kind of transparent you were on that call and discussing about an LO that actually had left your work family, and then you were able to get them back. And through that journey, you revised and really went deep on some of the policies in place and looking at why are those even in place and are they outdated? So, why don't you kind of pick up from there and share what made you shift?
There's so much to talk about here, but look, I think the way I would categorize it is that the marketing policies that most companies embrace are so old and out of date. They don't even account for social media and its importance in today's communication, especially since COVID. We all know that that's gone up so much. And so I think that there's a couple of areas to attack here. The first thing is that I think companies need to chill out a little bit. Okay. And I work for a large mortgage banking company, but it's we need to chill a little bit on our policies and procedures around marketing. And the reason why is because we don't have to micromanage and police everything. I get it. When everything is a collateral, everything's a piece of paper, everything's a flyer. Okay, I get it. You have to have all that ran by compliance, but that is such an old way of doing marketing. No one does that anymore. The people that are really having influence and bringing a lot of business in are doing live videos. How am I going to get my script approved with my compliance department if I'm going to do a live streaming video on Instagram, Facebook, or if I'm going to do a TikTok video that's going to go viral? There's no way to do that. So that's okay. It doesn't mean, and I gotta be honest with you, Deborah, I think some loan officers hide behind the compliance aspect of this and say that's their excuse why they don't do video because it's too difficult. My company won't let me. And I would say if that's true, then maybe you need to find a different company, or you need to talk to the company a little bit more and really understand what their policies are, because I believe that even a large company can work in different ways to educate their loan officers on what they can talk about in video. Obviously, you can't talk terms, conditions, interest rates. These are the obvious things that you can't talk about. You can't make promises and commitments to lend, and there's a lot of things you can do, but we can mitigate that risk by doing training up front. And think about it from a regulator standpoint. Everyone says, well, it's the regulators that we're worried about. Fair enough. We've been through so many audits, you can't even count, but you got to think like a regulator. What are they regulating? Well, they don't want you to mislead the consumer. Okay, well then what do we need to do? Well, we need to train our loan officers on the right way to message their videos so that they're not doing the things that would violate the regulation. It doesn't mean just don't ever do video. Now, it has to go a step further than that, because obviously, like you said, not every loan officer is equal. Not everyone pays attention in the trainings or follows along. So then we have to audit what it is that they're doing, just like we have to audit all of the other things. I do think that every loan I sell to Fannie Mae, I do a 100% audit of every loan to make sure it meets every part of compliance. Of course not. We do quality control. We audit 10% of the files to make sure that quality controls there. Now, if I have someone that I suspect of doing fraud, or I have a buyback, maybe I have to increase the number of audits for that particular individual. Well, the same thing could apply here on marketing. If you're violating it, you need to write somebody up. If you know that they're doing things or you've had complaints, well, then you need to look at more of their information. They have to follow, you have to let the company follow you on all of your social media. If you have a website, the company is still responsible for that domain. You have to have a domain transfer agreement with your company so that they can still do their due diligence. Doesn't mean you don't have some sort of policy in place on who gets to have a website, because you can't do it for everybody. I mean, we have 900 loan officers. That's not going to work. But there's certain loan officers. I'll use Dan Keller as an example, who everyone on this community knows. When I met Dan Keller in 2012, I was talking to him about his business. He says, I get 87% of my business from my website. What am I going to do? Say, yeah, you should probably shut that down if you want to come work for me. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, we have to adapt around that and find ways of doing the compliance that we need to do as an organization, but allowing the business to run the way that it needs to. And there's lots of ways of doing that. And that's what we're doing, Deborah. I think that's what every company needs to be doing in this market, to make sure that they can take full advantage of the platforms that are out there today. Because the reality is that you need to be you need to be doing the groundwork. You need to be meeting the realtors face to face, but you need to augment that with a social media presence. And we cannot anymore hide behind the idea that every word that's spoken out loud in the public forum needs to be signed off by a compliance officer before it leaves our mouth. I'm sorry, that doesn't work in today's world. So I think there's a lot more to unpack there, because there are things that you need to do. Trust me, I'm not saying be the Wild West. I'm saying there's other ways of accomplishing the oversight, the training, and the compliance necessary that will work in today's world.
Well, because imagine if you didn't, Tony. I mean, everyone knows the power of a personal brand and how you have to have a personal brand, and you can be a brand within the brand. However, there's a lot of companies that don't allow it. And if you don't allow it, what I'm seeing is people are starting to look elsewhere, because that is a pain point that they want to be able, to maybe monetize in the future, or to just be able to do it where they know business is headed. And so if you don't allow it, fast forward that, compound it over time, what is your business going to look like?
Well,
and what type of talent are you attracting at that point?
You're absolutely right. And that's a whole, to me, that's another conversation, which is about, look, most larger companies have marketing people that run their marketing departments. And I get it. I understand branding, sticking with your color palette, all these things are important to a brand. Like our corporate brand has to look, feel a certain way. But look, you have to have enough confidence in your corporate brand that you can also have people that tuck up under your corporate brand and brand themselves, and realize it does not diminish who it is that you represent as an organization. You can still have brand standards. You can still do that. And you can also require that people, when they do market your brand alongside theirs, that they still adhere to certain brand standards without taking away their ability to use their own color palette, to use their own design, their feel that they've built their brand around. And so you're absolutely right. And this is, again, it's a dinosaur mentality in mortgage leadership, in my opinion, to not find ways of letting loan officers build a personal brand, or even groups, right? I mean, like doing a DBA type structure. Like, I just worked out with our servicing department to be able to brand a DBA on the mortgage statement. Like, most people are like, what are you doing? That's insanity. Wow. It's like, yeah, but it's no longer like, look, we're comfortable with our brand as an organization. And a lot of people want to leverage the brand, right? I mean, we do a lot of builder, like new construction. You probably want to be associated with this national brand. They like that. But other people want this small, niche-y neighborhood kind of feel. Like this is my, like lending in Denver, or whatever. Like this is, you want to be close to home. That's what works for you. And you should be able to do both. And I think companies need to have enough, back to what Jeremy said, they have to have enough confidence in themselves as a brand to not feel like every little group that wants to brand themselves is diluting who it is that they are as an organization.
I almost think it could be an extension of, I mean, that's what's
Totally.
that's going to get attraction. And then people are going to ask, I mean, I know my sister gets asked all the time, like, who do you work for? At first they think she may own her own mortgage company, but they're all wondering where she works. And when they see the freedom and flexibility that she has, it's attractive. So Scott,
100%.
anything that you've seen, just, I know because you do a lot of speaking and demos with banks and companies on just leveraging Lender Launchpad in the marketing, anything that you've seen on your end, just with some of the friction or, fear of adoption because of outdated marketing policies?
Yeah. First of all, good morning.
Hi.
So I'm Cash. I got my Padre hat, because we
Yeah, I wasn't going to comment on the ugly hat there, but
ever. But no, I was on another call, but I had Dan, Dan and Jeremy, you guys turned down low, and I was writing some notes down. I was on the call, but I mean, shoot, I don't know where you dive in at. And, with Tony, Tony and Jeremy, it's opportunity. It's about education. It's getting out there. It's about, I wrote a word, you would calm, you put leadership, and that's it, and then I'm a huge tactician, right? This is my third seller buy down market, and it's just licking my chops, of diving in. But what's funny is now I have Lender Launchpad, and it goes, and I'll just fast forward this conversation into your guys' last conversation here, is marketing, right? So, and I think the thing that what Lender Launchpad does, and it can help a lot of people, in which, by the way, I have a free seller buy down for this community at 12, the link's in there. So I'm going to teach you strategy, but then the biggest thing you guys have as a community is mortgage coaches, your TCA, right? So think of, so taking the TCA and then going to market. And so one, you can be the leader, explain how this impacts the seller, the buyer, let them have choices of the 3-2-1 or permanent buy down. You educate that, and we're going to cover that into detail. But now specifically what you said, Deb, there's large companies coming to me now. One in particular reached out to me, and her conversation, and simply put, went like this: Scott, I've been stalking you. Someone sent me some of your videos, and I thought they're incredible. From you having your TCAs in there, your content, and it was amazing. So we're having this conversation. I run marketing for my company, but here's what I've been telling my company for 5 years. Who in the hell? My LOs don't know. For our company platform, our websites that we give our LO, because they're compliant, they're very stagnant. No consumer, no agent knows nothing about my LOs because of their site. What you built, and she said, she referenced the book Story Brand and Donna Miller. She goes, have you read the book? I go, absolutely. That's what you built. So when I opened up your video and I went to your platform, I'm watching your content. I know you. I trust you. Look at all of the stuff that you can help me with if I was an agent or a consumer. That's why we're attracted to your platform, because we have Mortgage Coach. We have these other technologies. Now we can launch in a global perspective now and allow wherever they're located around the country and whatever niche they do, they now can build their own brand on your platform, and so that's where it's going to be at. And that's going to be a big focus today in the seller buy down. I'm going to breeze through the seller buy down stuff, but really focus on marketing, helping the listings. I'm going to show you how to get the TCA and listings. And that's where the power for the TCA is. That's cool that you can build one, but what the hell you do with it, right? How do I get it in a listing? How do I educate a consumer how to buy this property instead of attacking price and all that? So we're going to go really deep into all of that this afternoon.
I love it.
Guys, we're almost out of time. Deborah, this has been a fantastic call. Tony, if you did have just kind of a rapid fire, if there's some other leadership shifts that you just go X and Y, is there anything else that you just, we don't have time to drill down in detail, but anything you want to call out at a high level?
Oh, look, as I talked about, I think there's opportunity to grow right now. So if you're any sort of a branch manager right now, and you're not spending a lot of your time recruiting and reaching out to people that are at organizations that are displaced, which is not just the big ones you see in the headlines. There's a lot of smaller companies right now that are retracting and making, they're just having struggles in this market. You need to be marketing yourself to other people in the mortgage industry right now, especially if you're a branch manager. I know a lot of the people on this call are branch regional executives. You need to be carving out the time to do that, because there's lots of opportunity to grow your team with talent. I think that everything Jeremy said, I'd go back and listen to it again, because great ideas, great strategies. And if you're not completely dug in to using Mortgage Coach with every single client that you work with, I mean, this is what I advocate with our team. Does everyone do it? No. Are the people that are having the most success doing it? Absolutely. So I'll leave it at that, Dave. I think that we just need to, work hard, be smart, and find the opportunities that exist in this market, because there's plenty of them if you look for it. And last thing is, have a positive attitude. Jeremy said, believe in yourself. You have to have confidence in yourself. Yeah, you gotta work your ass off, and you gotta have a good attitude. No one wants someone who's got a negative attitude about this market. Like, be the person who's optimistic and brings energy to every conversation that you're in. If you do that, you're going to attract people a lot more in this market.
So here's
that was the one thing.
Deborah, I'm going to give it to you. You'll get the closing thought. I did this keynote at Housing Wire a couple days ago, and it was on 4 leadership lessons that I've learned over my career. To create this keynote, I had about 12 key lessons, and I broke it down to 4. But I'm gonna just in 1 minute share this one lesson that it kind of amplifies what Tony just said, and it's the best lesson I ever learned as a father and as a businessman. And I learned this lesson about, 6 years ago. My son on the left right there was in 8th grade, and he was wearing a Syracuse jersey, or a Syracuse sweatshirt. He wanted to play lacrosse for Syracuse. And he was a good player. He wasn't like, the best in the state or the best in this, even in the city. He was good. That guy on the right around him, his name was Brendan Fowler. Anybody who knows lacrosse, he's got 2 championship rings. He's the only face-off guy in NCAA history and D1 lacrosse to ever be the MVP of a game. And he was one of my son's coach. And he did a clinic in our city. And it was 8th grade, the summer between 8th grade and freshman year. So it was my last year of being a coach. And I said, hey, now that I'm not going to be a coach anymore, and I'm going to be driving on my way to the game, I'm just looking for advice on the way to the game. Like, I was used to always, talking tactics and strategies and kind of like doing a little prep for the game. But I go, that's not my role anymore. What should we talk about? And he's like, you know what? Jack's going to one of the best teams in the state, and he's got a great coach. Jack is a, disciplined, serious athlete that works hard and gives everything his best. The only thing he needs from a parent pregame is right here, guys. Well, by the way, he did end up playing for lacrosse, or playing for Syracuse. So that's him on signing day and press day. But here's what Brendan Fowler told me. He's like, all Jack needs to hear from you is have fun, play loose. And that's my closing thought is, guys, we're not playing loose enough right now. It is hard, it is tough. And you can have fun in the chaos. You can play loose in the chaos. Like, it's possible. Like, get your head around what an awesome opportunity this is. Whatever you got to do, train, self-talk, have fun, play loose. Again, you got to do the work. But if you have fun and play loose, and guys, that advice, every time I go on stage, every time I go into a meeting, I personally say that to myself multiple times a day. Okay, Dave, have fun, play loose. Deborah, closing thoughts. Let's rock it out.
Ironically, I've started using that same line with my own kids because I hear it so often. But that is what I was going to say and add to, when you're doing your skills training with your sales team. I think too often we leave out attitude training, because sometimes you can have people who have more skill and more talent, but someone who has the want to and the desire can outperform those with the best skill in the world. So what are you doing to maximize that opportunity to not use your team or your referral partners as just that ATM, like Jeremy said? And how are you I think we should be doing sales training every day anyways, whether that's a 15-minute huddle up meeting every morning, but don't forget the attitude part, the mindset, because, Tony, just like you said, no one wants to work with a negative Nancy or a Debbie Downer. So you may have to be that light and to remind people to have fun and play loose and to focus on the actions, not always the results, because the seeds you plant today, they may not come until next quarter. But you've got to do the work, and we need to reward and talk about the activities that we're making commitments to and honoring those. And we need to incorporate mindset training.
All right, guys, this is a wrap. Tony Blodgett, I know how busy you are. Are you going to come join me for lunch, dude?
I don't know. Let me look at the schedule. I'll text you back.
All right.
That means no.
Thank you, bro. I know. I got the code. Deborah, thank you for taking the lead on this call. I really appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
See you guys.